What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you enjoyed the 2025 NFL draft. The Dallas Cowboys are officially done. The NFL draft is officially done, and we have a lot to get to. Let's go ahead and begin. It is Saturday, April the 26th, 2025. I've been with you following each night, each day of the draft at this point, and I'm with you live in the Bleacher Report app every single Tuesday and Thursday. 6 p.m. Central Standard Time is when you can hang out with me. You can also watch these shows on demand, live in the Bleacher, or not live. You can watch this show live in the Bleacher Report app, but you can also catch it on demand in the Bleacher Report app. You can also catch it on demand on the Blog and the Boys YouTube channel as well. You can see how to follow me on social media as well. Also, I see you, Lynn Snell, wide receiver 2 is the comment. That is definitely I'd say, macro takeaway as far as the Cowboys roster is concerned. Hot Mike User says, I felt like they gave something cooking for a wide receiver. I think you mean have. Probably got auto-corrected. I feel like they have. Let's put your comment on the screen. I feel like, let's call it have. I feel like they have something cooking for a wide receiver since they did not address the position in the draft. Let's talk about what the Cowboys did and did not do in the draft. This is their draft class. This is my tweet. Shout out to me. I'm awesome. So this is every single pick the Dallas Cowboys made, and obviously not all of them happened on Saturday, but in the first round, we all know we've discussed Tyler Booker out of Alabama. In the second, Donovan Ezuraku out of Boston College. In the third, Savon Revel Jr. out of East Carolina. On Saturday, the new things, in case maybe you were busy, you had something going on with the kids, you were exercising, I don't know, you weren't trapped on your computer all day like the rest of us. Jaden Blue was how the Cowboys got the party started on Saturday. Remember, they did not have a fourth-round draft pick because they gave it up in the Jonathan Mingo trade. Ironically, that pick became a top running back in some people's estimation, Trevor Etienne out of Georgia. So he is now a Panther. And just a quick sidebar, quick tangent. It is the most hilarious thing of all time that the Carolina Panthers traded Jonathan Mingo to the Cowboys, which exacerbated Carolina's need for a wide receiver, and that they were the team who wound up with Tet McMillan in the first round, and then that Carolina used that pick that belonged to the Cowboys to address the running back position when they have a huge surplus at the position, still having Chuba Hubbard, Jonathan Brooks, who they were the first team to take a running back in the draft last year, and signing Rico Dowdle in free agency, that they would land Trevor Etienne was just really, really, really funny. But Dallas landed Jaden Blue, and I think everybody was pretty cool with it. I'm not a Longhorn fan myself. I think they're stupid and ugly, but I know a lot of you root for them, and so I'm happy for those of you that are happy. Cowboys, though, didn't give us much time to kind of celebrate the Jaden Blue pick because that came at 149, and Dallas made a trade very quickly after. We're talking like 3 minutes after we were all celebrating the Jaden Blue pick. We'll come back to it in a moment here, but the Cowboys sent picks 174 and 211. Those were each compensatory picks that the Cowboys had received about a month and a half ago. They sent those to the Arizona Cardinals for pick 152. So that's right. They went 149 to Jaden Blue, 152 to Shamar James. That was who became the pick out of the University of Florida. Let's go. The Gator boys staying hot. Cowboys get a linebacker. We know that Matt Eberflus, new Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator, former Dallas Cowboys linebackers coach. In case you don't know, in case you aren't familiar, in case you haven't heard me say, Matt Eberflus was critical, was pivotal, was monumental, was essential in the growth and development that Sean Lee had throughout his career with the Dallas Cowboys. So if Matt Eberflus said, this guy, Shamar James, I really want him, you can have him. And the Cowboys must have really felt that way, like I said, because they ultimately spent some extra change to go up and get him. To be fair, though, the Cowboys did have 10 picks, so it's not like, I don't think any of us really thought they were going to spend all of them. They only ultimately executed one trade. But still, that was somewhat of a chalk sort of thing. Then the Cowboys had to wait a little bit after all that fun and took a Johnny Cornelius out of Oregon. It was interesting, the discussion around Johnny after he was drafted. He obviously played tackle at Oregon for the Ducks, but the discussion was that he'll be converting to guard. And the reason this is interesting, I would offer, is because we know, at least we thought, when we the first round is all said and done, and hopefully by this point in time you've made your peace with the Tyler Booker thing, but we all thought coming into this week that the Cowboys were fine along the interior. Obviously Tyler Smith is taken care of, but from another perspective, we thought the Cowboys were going to be good with one of TJ Bass or Brock Hoffman, but the Cowboys said, whoa, Miss Lippy, no, we want to add Tyler Booker to the mix. Okay, that's great. And now you draft this dude, Johnny Cornelius, and you tell us that he's a guard. So now you've just got this surplus yards. Did you forget that wide receiver existed? To Lynn Snell's point, my boy Lynn Snell. But so the Cowboys are pretty guard rich. And then to start the 7th round, the Cowboys did have 3 picks in the 7th round. Jay Toia out of UCLA, nice one-tech defensive tackle option. We know the Cowboys have really paid a lot of attention to the interior throughout this offseason. If you think about the fact they obviously brought back Osa Digizua, talking about from a macro standpoint here, bringing in Solomon Thomas, they very clearly want to have options because they unfortunately cannot trust their first-round draft pick from 2 years ago. Phil Maffa, I see you, Gerald Birmingham, says JMO trade incoming. I haven't seen, Jeff, be sure, you asked about Isaiah Bond. I have not seen if there has been an update on Isaiah Bond relative to undrafted free agency. We do have an undrafted free agency tracker available for you at bloggingtheboys.com, so make sure you head on over there. Constantly refresh it. We'll be updating it. Our staff is on top of it. I'm obviously not there in this moment, but you get the picture. That being said, I haven't seen anything about Isaiah Bond. I did see that Barca won the Copa del Rey, so shout out to you, Madrid fans. No, nothing about Isaiah Bond yet, but he did not get drafted as far as I'm concerned, unless I missed it. But either way, we've got a lot of comments coming in too now, a lot of people celebrating. Ultimately, the Cowboys getting Phil Maffa with their penultimate pick in the 7th round gives them a second running back option. I love what the Cowboys did at the running back position in this draft. You think about obviously landing Jaden Blue early on and then adding Phil Maffa. You've got, I hate to be that guy, but the Thunder and the Lightning. We obviously know the Cowboys added Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders in free agency. So they have a lot of options now, which they haven't had. They at least have viable NFL quality players in the running back room, which is something you haven't been able to say about the Cowboys for a while. And Tommy Akingbasotay, defensive tackle out of Maryland, was the final pick for the Dallas Cowboys in the 7th round. Worth mentioning that pick, the Tommy Akingbasotay selection, was part of the Jonathan Mingo trade as well. Dallas did receive a 7th round pick. Now, I see the question here from, I've lost it now, H. Vargas 1. Let's talk about H. Vargas 1. What the hell are they going to do at wide receiver 2? It's a very good question, H. Vargas 1. There is no doubt in my mind, and I think this is pretty presumed if you look at the chat right now, everybody is saying this wide receiver is a critical need. I mean, not just like we kind of need this thing. No. This is like you still have your Christmas tree up at this point in the year, need to take care of, right? Like you can have it up, in January or maybe even get to February. It's okay. But if you still got it up, you need to do something about this. This is that apparent of a situation. And we've already made our peace. We've already coped with the fact that Ted McMillan did not make it to 12 overall. That was a huge bummer. We've already made our peace and coped with the fact that the Cowboys didn't take Matthew Golden at 12. He did slide a little bit farther than that. And by the way, on the Matthew Golden note, originally reported he was going to wear number 81 for the Packers. That would have ruled, but he's actually going to wear number 22. So on some level, kind of happy about this because that's pretty disgusting. So we know that the Cowboys obviously have not addressed the wide receiver position. Luther Burden did not make it to them in the 2nd round. It's tough. And I think that on one hand, we can applaud the Cowboys objectively, legitimately, logically, fairly in saying that not any single one of these picks, outside of maybe the Tommy Akingbasotay pick because he wasn't on a lot of people's, draft boards and things like that. I don't think you can say that anybody was a reach. And even then, the Tommy Akingbasotay may have just been we don't want to deal with this in undrafted free agency. Let's just spin the pick right now and lock him up. So the Cowboys let the board fall to them. That being said, this is why you have to pay attention a position like wide receiver in free agency. The Cowboys, I haven't seen anything about Isaiah Bond. For those of you that are here live, I'm making sure to keep one eye on social media because it is undrafted free agency season. But you have to, we know, like, duh, I don't have to tell any of you here that the Cowboys need to utilize free agency more often than they already do. And they were able to make some lemonade out of the situation at running back. In landing Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa, the Cowboys were able to walk away with 2 running backs who can really help them in 2025, on top of obviously Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. This was a tough day for Deuce Vaughn. I don't think that there's any doubt about that, all due respect. Honestly, the Phil Maffa pick may be a tough day for Hunter Lipke as well. And you can certainly make the argument that those were Mike McCarthy players and that maybe Brian Schottenheimer wants to do it his way. We can't fault him for that. That's just the business of how this goes. But the Cowboys are able to survive. They're going to be able to survive at the running back position. But at wide receiver, all due respect, and I've been saying this for a long time. If you're new around here, I know we have a lot of people in the chat. My name is RJ Ochoa. I cover the Dallas Cowboys for SB Nation. It's quite literally my job to be talking about the Cowboys on all levels of the internet and social media. So if you are new around here, please follow me, X, Instagram, Threads. TikTok is rj.ochoa. As you can see, I'm on Blue Sky. You can like my Facebook page. Anywhere you access content, I am talking about the Dallas Cowboys, occasionally talking about the world of golf, things like that. So Cowboys made some lemonade at running back. I see you, JL85 Cowboys, with the line that people are going to say for a long time. Drop the deuce. Um, yeah, I mean that's funny and that's fair and that's unfortunate. But I do want to get here before we come back to the wide receiver discussion because I think a lot of you are anxious. TJM 32291. If that's your birthday, TJM, happy belated. Says B plus grade thoughts. Let's go in the chat right now. If you are with us live, grade the Dallas Cowboys draft class. I'm gonna put it back up on the screen for you one last time. Whoops, I did not mean to do that. That was the wrong button. Let's put this up on the screen. Grade the Dallas Cowboys draft class. We're going A through F, and I think B plus is fair. I think B plus is a little harsh, honestly. Hogs and Cowboys says, did they fill all the holes? No, but they got better and good value picks. That's a good piece of perspective. A lot of you are saying B plus. I'm honestly going to go A minus. I really think that that is fair. I don't think that that is being a homer. I don't think that that's over glossing. I don't think that's putting too much lipstick on this situation. The Cowboys took care of serious needs, and the Cowboys established an identity, several identities, honestly, in this draft. When you think about, they really addressed the trenches. We're talking about several interior players on both sides of the ball. You walked away with 2 guards. Obviously, your most premium asset was spent at that position with your first round selection, 12 overall, and Tyler Booker, but you also walked away with a Johnny Cornelius on day 3. You got multiple defensive linemen who you really like potentially. You got an incredible piece of value in Donovan Ezuraku. You got an incredible piece of value, to repeat that word in a louder voice, with Savon Revel. You got a really fast, dynamic running back who can add to this mix, and a pounder of a player in Phil Maffa. Honestly, A minus feels fair to me. Did they address wide receiver? No, but I will not kill them for not reaching. I would be pissed, and you would be pissed, if the Cowboys did not have Savon Revel on this team right now because they reached for a wide receiver at the end of day 2. Now, we can rightfully complain and be upset and honestly drag them for making poor decisions in the past. And these are the consequences of those things, right? These are the consequences. Today is a consequence of spending your 4th round pick foolishly on Jonathan Mingo. I don't mean to drag Jonathan Mingo himself, but I think we all would have preferred any wide receiver who was on the board when Carolina took Trevor Etienne on Saturday than Jonathan Mingo being on the team right now, because the reason we're so panicked about the wide receiver 2 position is because none of us feel like the team can rightfully, fairly, or logically trust Jonathan Mingo. So this is a consequence of that. And this is also a consequence of not spending in free agency, Dallas Cowboys. And if I'm allowing myself to cope in any one way or the other, it's that maybe they looked at what happened across this weekend and said, damn, you know what? We should have been in on free agency a little bit more. We should have acted a little bit more selectively aggressive. We should have signed some more players than we ultimately did. Yeah, you think? We're not saying you have to go crazy, and respect on doing a little bit more than you did last year, but you have to be somewhat aggressive. You have to be quite honest and blunt with you. You have to overpay on some level in free agency so that you don't end up in this situation where now, imagine you're Keenan Allen, or imagine you're pick whoever you want it to be, Amari Cooper, right? You have a little bit more leverage against the Cowboys because they did not walk away with anybody in the NFL draft. They need you. This Dallas Cowboys team needs wide receiver help in the worst kind of way. I have not seen anything about Isaiah Bond. Again, keeping an eye on all levels of undrafted free agency so far. We have a tracker up at bloggingtheboys.com. We will be updating and refreshing that constantly for those of you. I see you, Saturn Slayer says need Isaiah Bond. Red Tech says Cornelius could replace Steele, which is huge in my opinion. I wouldn't go that far. I know we all have problems with Terrence Steele. I think sometimes our criticism makes us say things that are a little bit untrue, but Cornelius could be a player who could certainly help out, obviously, in the future. I don't want to go that far is all I'm saying. Red Tech says plenty of options of wide receiver left, whether trade or signing. Yeah, I mean, if the Cowboys, we haven't really talked about the trade avenue option. They could trade for George Pickens if they really want. I would hate to see them. We all just lamented about them not having a 4th round pick. It would really suck, obviously, to have, to see them burn a future pick today or tomorrow in the name of acquiring George Pickens or something like that. But at the same time, you really need some help if you're the Dallas Cowboys. This position is a huge disaster. Now, to be fair, basically every other position is in, solid to really good shape, right? We look at the offensive line right now. It's in pretty solid shape. The trajectory is pointing upward. Offensively, you need that help at wide receiver, but from a running back perspective, everything is really kind of pointing up. This running back room has been remade in the course of one offseason. John Nolan, 1982, says they can trade for Breece Hall. I'm good, John Nolan. We don't need to do that at this point in time. The Cowboys have taken care of this. I thought I saw Isaiah Bond's name, but I did not. So Lynn Snell says, I throw a third at the Steelers for Pickens. I would throw a 5. That's where I'm starting my conversation right now. I mean, it's a low ball offer, but we'll see what can happen. I don't want to part with a third round pick like an hour after the NFL draft just ended. Michael Milligan says, just remember we lost Dak, so the receivers may not be as bad. Michael, I don't know if your point is this, but on the receiver note, and it's strange how I think we're all really excited about the draft class that the Cowboys just had. In fact, a lot of you said in the chat that you would grade it somewhere around a B plus to an A. A lot of you even said A plus. But it's strange, and that's what's weird about this wide receiver situation, how the Cowboys have approached it. It's weird how that is almost as big of a story as the draft class itself. And maybe your point, Michael, was that, hey, it's hard to know what the Cowboys have at wide receiver because Dak got hurt last year. And if that is your point, in the most respectful possible way, I say get that trash out of here, because we know what the Cowboys have. And again, all due respect, we know that Jalen Tolbert can help this team in a serious way. We're pretty certain that Jonathan Mingo can help this team in a serious way. Granted, he hasn't had a lot of time with this team. And I really like the ideas of Ryan Flournoy and Jalen Brooks, maybe helping this team out in somewhat of a serious way at some point in time. But to count on that, to bank on that is irresponsible. And so we want this team to have a higher floor proposition, a higher floor option. You said it yourself. It's hard to kind of measure or gauge what these options are because Dak got hurt. What if CeeDee got hurt? What if CeeDee Lamb couldn't play for this team? You would have easily the worst receiver room in the NFL. You might have the worst receiver room in the NFL right now. And that's with CeeDee carrying the average of the group. It is foolish. It's beyond irresponsible at this point in time to, in a serious measure, count on anybody else. The Cowboys, last night on Friday night, to be very clear, in case somebody is watching this after the fact, I respect Brian Schottenheimer saying this, but they were talking about obviously not drafting a receiver in the second or the third rounds, and I think we have all made our peace with that by now. But Brian Schottenheimer said, yeah, well, Jalen Tolbert led the team in touchdowns last year. Brian, respect, bro, and we've come around on you too, man. Get out of here. Like that is a silly point to say. Like that's a ridiculous thing to say. Like, do you think anybody, on the Raiders is bragging about who led the team in receiving yards last year? No, that is a silly way to evaluate this. And if they're really doing that, if they're really saying, well, Jalen Tolbert led the team in touchdowns last year, then we're cooked. Like, we're cooked in the worst possible way. John Nolan says our receiver room is young. That's true, but I mean, I still don't think that that's, worth hanging your hat on. I still haven't seen anything on Isaiah Bond. I have to imagine that his phone is just ringing. Somebody wants to come away with him, and maybe the Cowboys were banking on that to some degree. Let's see here. H. Vargas says Keenan Allen. I would love Keenan Allen. I would love Amari Cooper, obviously. D-Bones 2022 says should have drafted Golden or Walter Nolan in the first. Booker was a waste. D-Bones, respectfully, you need to reform your opinion with a little bit more, calm mind happening, because the Tyler Booker pick is incredible. I don't know how you can feel any other way at this point in time. If you're still upset about the Tyler Booker pick today on Saturday, I mean, dude, it's been a long time. Like, the Tyler Booker pick was awesome. Still nothing on. No, I thought I saw Isaiah Bond's name. No, nothing yet. Let's see here. RB Cowboy says Booker wasn't a waste. Gerald says Booker was a home run pick. Yeah, y'all tell him. Michael says fair analysis, but I think we're going to be okay at receiver. If the Cowboys do not bring in a receiver, and I know, let's, on the Isaiah Bond thing, we are talking about the football of this. We have no idea what the legality around this situation is going to be. I think we can all just admit that, none of us are saying anything along those lines, that if the circumstances involved in that change, then very clearly that impacts everything. We all understand that. We don't have to say this a million times. That being said, even if the Cowboys were to bring in Isaiah Bond, while that would certainly help, that's not enough. Like, you need 3 legitimate receivers in today's NFL to dominate. I mean, you need 2 receivers just to survive. And that's why we're so panicked about the Cowboys right now, is they only have 1 in CeeDee Lamb. So still no Isaiah Bond. I'm just making sure I don't miss anything. I don't want to leave you guys hanging. But Kara Fox says Amari Cooper, cheap like we let him go for. Unfortunately, on the Amari thing, I think that they just have too much pride. I really can't imagine them swallowing that pride and admitting that they were wrong. That is one of those that they're just going to completely go down with the ship on, as stupid as it is. It was that bad and that poor of a trade that they have no choice at this moment in time. And I think that on some level, I didn't mean to bang the microphone there. On some level, I think that's what's, kind of helping them cope with the Jonathan Mingo trade. They keep insisting that they had Jonathan Mingo. I don't mean to say insisting like I don't believe them, but they keep talking about how Jonathan Mingo was a second round pick in terms of their evaluation on their draft board. That's great. That doesn't mean that he's going to help you the way a second round pick would help you today. Your evaluation from a few years ago means nothing at this moment in time. I hate to break it to you, but that's the reality. VR823 says, need a veteran receiver. I agree. Still, I haven't seen actually any undrafted free agents that are heading to the Cowboys, let alone Isaiah Bond. So keeping eyes out for you. No, we're good. All right, so Egoots38 says, I say go get Cooper and Bond, 1, 2, 3 punch with CD included. Again, I'm telling you all this because I love you and I care about you and I want you to have something delicious for dinner. The Amari Cooper thing isn't going to happen. We need to let that go. Like we really need to let that go for our own sanity. We're only torturing ourselves if we believe that Amari Cooper is a legitimate option for the Cowboys. He isn't. R Garcia M21 says, would you explore a trade or try to find an undrafted free agent? They need help. They need help now. You can bring in, they're going to bring an undrafted free agent, whether it's Isaiah Bond or somebody. They're going to sign, this is the Dallas Cowboys. Like undrafted free agency is their nirvana. Like the Andy Johnsons of the world are going to happen, right? They're going to sign an undrafted free agent wide receiver. That is simply not enough. They need a lot of help. When we whoever you are, whatever mock drafts you did, I promise you, I would bet you anything that whoever you are, if you did even one mock draft, let alone if you did 1,000 mock drafts, there is no way that you did any single mock draft and did not draft a wide receiver. There's no chance. There is no way on earth that you did a mock draft and did not draft a wide receiver. I totally believe you. If you tell me that you did a mock draft and you came away with Jaden Blue, or you came away with Shamar James, or you came away with even Tommy Aking-Basote, I will buy that. I can believe that. I can logic that in my brain. But there is no way that any of you did a mock draft and did not address wide receiver because it's that big of a need. Okay, we have an undrafted free agent signing. Kentucky DB Zion Childress is signing with the Cowboys, according to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. So we've got that. We're on the board, people. All right. So again, zero way that the Cowboys went, went any kind of mock draft without helping the wide receiver room. I do not buy that. Hot Mike User says Schottenheimer will be what we thought he was going to be this year, will be a disaster. Look, the vibes are pretty high. And I think that, honestly, this is my new question. We've already graded the draft. We understand. Let's go. I have two questions as we kind of talk here as a group, as a society, as a community. Who was your favorite draft pick? That's my first question to all of you. Who was your favorite draft pick? Let's put this back up on the screen. I didn't accidentally take myself off this time. Marcus Cherry says Mingo is going to be straight. I hope you're right. I really do. I would love nothing more than to be back here in the Tuesday, Thursday streams that I do in the Bleacher Report app and say, I was wrong. Jonathan Mingo's awesome. I'm eating crow. I would love that. But who was your favorite draft pick of the class that we're looking at right now for the Dallas Cowboys? I think a lot of people are going to say Jaden Blue. I think a lot of people are going to say Savon Revel. Reeler8 just said that. Tyler Booker is what DT_T just said. I think, Revel's getting all the comments. I think because he was probably a first-round draft pick, if not for the ACL injury, he really, really, really has it. I also think that the reason Savon Revel is a candidate to be, your favorite or the best or the highest return on investment or whatever is partly because, unlike the players that went before him, and this is nothing against Tyler Booker or Donovan Ezuraku, obviously, Savon Revel happened at a position of need. If you had outlined the positions of most critical need for the Cowboys before the 2025 NFL draft, I think consensus was that they were wide receiver, running back, and corner. So Savon Revel is the perfect Venn diagram, elite talent matching positional need, which is why, again, it makes sense for a lot of you that he was your favorite. Ezuraku, the R823 says that makes sense as well. Toia was nice, as Doc214. I didn't think we would get a Toia answer, but hey, sometimes, that's what happens. Philip Proctor offers Toia as well. Look, I would love nothing more than for the Cowboys to have a defensive tackle who can just kind of clog things up and still be athletic and get around and move and help them in different capacities. We've been screaming about that for a long time. C. Wright 54 also offers Donovan Ezuraku. Those players definitely have a chance to really help this team in a serious way. I'm completely with you in that perspective as well. So that was my first question. My second question is, let's assume, all right, let's assume, and I'm back here monitoring social media, nothing yet, but let's assume, big assumption here. Let's assume the Cowboys find a receiver that works. That's a really, wide net to cast. I recognize that, but let's assume that they do something, whether it's Keenan Allen or say it is Amari Cooper or George Pickens, or maybe you feel this way about Isaiah Bond, whatever. Let's assume that they do that thing, right? That one thing, however you define it, let's assume that it happens, all right, to a place where you say, okay, I can sign off on that. That was smart. That was legitimate. You just helped the offense. Let's rock. So we've assumed that this has happened, however you choose to define it. Are you back? As a Cowboys fan, are you back? And it's okay to be like, I never left this team and blah, blah. But are you back? If you're someone who was down, if you're someone who was upset about this team, who was pissed off, maybe you stopped going to games, you stopped buying jerseys, you stopped watching on TV, however you define being out or apathetic or whatever, are you back? Are you back a little bit? Because I would say, I would offer, I would suggest, in fact, I would declare that everything that has happened for this team since the if we look at the moment Stephen Jones did the air quotes, that was a really bad moment. That was a low in the mud moment. That was a really, really, really tough moment. All right. Everything since Stephen Jones did the air quotes has been pretty positive. I will say everything since that moment, since the Brian Schottenheimer press conference ended when they introduced him as head coach, has been pretty much all about ball. I mean, the Joneses have kind of stepped out of the way. Brian Schottenheimer has gotten to lead the way. They were active in free agency. They brought in a lot of people. Maybe, we can sit here and, again, fairly say that they should have done more at receiver, but, they still did a lot of things. They were incredibly disciplined in the NFL draft. They came up with a class that we all kind of agree is at worst an A minus B plus level of quality group. I mean, man, I kind of like, I think that I speak for a lot of us. I would never assume that I do, but I think that I speak for a lot of us in saying that last year was not fun. It was, we all watched and we all rooted and we all, wanted the Cowboys to win, but we all just knew that it was not going to, deliver. We all, felt handicapped, I guess is maybe the best way to say it, relative to joy that we could experience. And I will say that I kind of, I've got that twinkle in my eye again. I've got that skip in my step. I feel, I feel delusional the way you're supposed to feel as a football fan. Does that make sense? I feel like, this is nice. Like it's kind of, it's like when you play a video game and you unlock a piece of the map and then it zooms out and like it's like and the map is unlocking like progressively. I kind of feel like that's happening, but I've seen this map before. It's like I'm uncovering memories. It's like Mark in what's it called? Not Succession. What is the show that we all just Severance? It's like Mark when he's like relearning his memories. Like I kind of feel like that. Like this is how we're supposed to feel. I'm still scared. I'm terrified. Philip Proctor is cautiously optimistic, and I don't mean to just be Charlie Brown and like, this time, Lucy, she's for real. She's going to leave this ball and I'm going to get to kick it. Like, I'm not dumb, but I feel legit. Shiloh Sanders, for anyone who's curious, is signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in undrafted free agency. So, score that one at home for whoever. But Jay Cabrera, 55, says all that is needed is a legit number 2 wide receiver to compete in the division. Look, I know that a lot of you don't feel this way, and if you do feel the way I'm about to say, then I'm sorry for you, because it goes against the twinkle in your eye feeling that I was talking about. But Dak Prescott is one of the best quarterbacks on the NFL. You can define that how you want as well, but he's a top 10 dude. He's a quarterback who you can win with. You can win a Super Bowl. I'm not here to have that argument a million times over. You get my point. So you've got the most important piece. The second most important piece is you need a badass pass catcher to have those strengths amplified. They have that piece in CeeDee Lamb. Okay, wow, you're really lucky that you have the 2 most important pieces. Well, what's the third most important piece? You need a badass pass rusher on the other side of the ball who can disrupt games and win games. And obviously the Micah extension is something that still has to be taken care of. That goes without saying. But you've got that piece. They've got the 3 most important things. They have those, which is why it's so frustrating that they can't capitalize on all this. But they have those things, and they have fortified, they have locked, and they have taken care of, they have cleaned up, they have, just kind of really solidified a lot of shaky areas on their team. And so, yes, if they come away with a second wide receiver, second and third wide receiver, I think it's fair to, dare I say, trust them a little bit. And I agree with you, R. Garcia, M21. Unfortunately, Philadelphia had a good draft again. I agree. But the Cowboys had such a good draft that I'm ready to go beat their ass. Like, let's go kick their ass. Let's go beat the Eagles. I'm like, last year the Eagles games were so annoying and boring, and I didn't even care about them. And I think we all agree. Now, let's go. Let's do it. Let's go hunt. Let's go do this thing. I feel re-energized and rejuvenated. And I'm very happy about that. And I hope that you feel the same. And I hope that you're happy as well. If you have never seen me talking Dallas Cowboys before, I am deeply offended and personally bothered and will never forgive you. That is a joke. But my name is RJ Ochoa, and I cover the Dallas Cowboys. I've been doing so for about a decade now. I run Blogging the Boys, SB Nation's Dallas Cowboys site. So check us out, bloggingtheboys.com, 24/7, 365. Constant Dallas Cowboys news, coverage, discussion, analysis. We have all sorts of things. You can read my writing there, obviously, and all of our wonderful staffers. You can follow me on social media where my work extends, talking Cowboys 24/7, 365, like I said. X, Instagram, Threads, at RJ Ochoa, TikTok, RJ.Ochoa. Search for RJ Ochoa on Blue Sky. I have a Facebook page. You can search for it like RJ Ochoa. If you want to email me, rj.ochoa@sbnation.com. You want to follow me on LinkedIn, just search for RJ Ochoa. I promise you, wherever you are talking about football or the Dallas Cowboys on the internet, you can find and access my content. Thank you so much to everybody for hanging out with me. I love talking Dallas Cowboys more than anything in the world, and that I have all these friends on the internet who I get to do it with is still something I am incredibly humbled by. I hope you all enjoyed the 2025 NFL draft. I'm so happy and pumped that it kind of, rekindled our love for this team, our crazy delusional love. But it is that crazy delusional love that we all share and have in common with one another, and that's what unites us. So thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out, and we'll see you on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time.